Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into something, well, pretty intriguing that happened in the mycology world.
Uh-huh. We're talking about Paul Stamets, right? The well-known mycologist.
Exactly. He was on a podcast, got asked about portobello mushrooms. Seems simple enough, but he refused to answer,
Yeah, he didn't just refuse. He said answering would, put his life in danger.
which naturally caused a huge stir online. People started speculating like crazy.
Absolutely. So that's our mission today, to dig into why. Why would he say that?
We've gathered quite a bit of stuff, Reddit threads, from Hemicology or Joe Rogan.
A blog post from Human Pro, even an article from Yale Scientific. So a real mix of things.
Right. We're going to lay out the theories people have come up with and see, well, which ones actually seem plausible.
Let's jump in. Theory number 1, food libel laws.
Okay, food libel. What exactly are we talking about there? Sounds serious.
They are, sort of. They're also called food disparagement laws or veggie libel laws sometimes.
Veggie libel. Okay.
Yeah. 13 U.S. states have them. And the point is, they make it easier for, say, a food producer to sue someone for criticizing their product.
Easier how?
Well, sometimes the critic has to prove their claims are true using, solid scientific evidence. It kind of flips the usual burden of proof.
So Stamets says something negative about portobellos, maybe based on some early research.
And bam, he could potentially get sued by the portobello industry.
Even if he's not in the U.S.
That's a point some Redditors brought up. U.S. law can sometimes reach beyond its borders if it impacts the U.S. market. So, yeah.
Okay, so concern about a lawsuit. That sounds, well, it sounds possible.
Yeah, we'd have to rule this one as plausible. A definite possibility he was worried about legal trouble.
All right, moving on. Theory 2 gets into the mushroom's chemistry. Agarotine.
Ah, yes. Agarotine. It's found in Agaricus bisperus mushrooms. That's your portobellos, your white buttons, cremones, the common one.
And what's the issue with agarotine?
The main thing is that it can apparently break down into hydrazine.
Hydrazine. Isn't that used in, rocket fuel?
That's the one. And yeah, there are concerns because hydrazine is considered a potential carcinogen.
Wow, okay, so a mushroom chemical related to rocket fuel and cancer risk.
Sort of. There was a study mentioned, Journal of Functional Foods, suggesting agarotine might be carcinogenic. Another one estimated a lifetime cancer risk from eating raw mushrooms regularly.
Raw being the key word there. I thought cooking helps.
It does, significantly. That's emphasized in some sources. Cooking seems to reduce agarotine levels quite a bit.
But still, if you're eating them raw.
Exactly. And opinions vary. Some sources called agarotine highly carcinogenic. Others said it's, weakly genotoxic. One Reddit user even mentioned needing to boil them for ages and change the water multiple times.
So even though cooking helps, maybe Stamets knew about the raw risk and didn't want to stir the pot, so to speak.
Could be. Fear of public reaction, industry backlash. It's conceivable. So, yeah, let's call this one plausible, too.
Okay, plausible. Now, theory 3. This one sounds like a movie plot. The Portabella Mafia.
Laughs. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? The idea of organized crime controlling the portobello trade.
Seriously, people actually think that.
Well, it definitely popped up in the Reddit discussions. Suggestions of maybe Italian or Mexican groups involved, especially in big mushroom areas like Avondale, Pennsylvania.
And the theory is this mafia would silence anyone bad-mouthing their mushrooms.
That's the gist. Protecting their product, maybe using it for money laundering, that kind of thing. Someone even linked it to a Vice doc about mafia control in the Italian food industry.
Is there any actual evidence for this in the Portabello world, though?
Not really, not in the sources we looked at. It's mostly speculation, but Stamets' reaction was very serious, very fearful sounding.
So the lack of proof makes it shaky, but his tone kind of lends it some weight.
Maybe a tiny bit. It feels unlikely, but given his reaction, let's cautiously say plausible, but leaning towards speculative.
Okay, plausible, but maybe with an asterisk. Next theory loops back to hydrazine.
Right, the rocket fuel connection again. But this time the idea is maybe someone could make explosives from portobellos.
Wait, what? Extract hydrazine from mushrooms to make bombs?
Theoretically, maybe, since the agarotine breaks down into hydrazine. But the sources suggest it's highly impractical. You'd need tons of mushrooms, and it's probably super inefficient.
Does it sound like a viable terrorism plot?
No, not really. And that Yale article actually talks about using portobellos for, eco-friendly batteries. Shows they have weird uses, but not really for explosives in any practical sense.
So the idea that Stamets was scared because mushrooms could be used for bombs seems unlikely.
Very unlikely based on what we read. The chemical link is there, but the danger seems massively exaggerated in this context. We're going to have to rule this one false.
Okay, false. That feels right. What about theory 5? This one involves Stamets himself.
Yeah, protecting the mushroom supplement industry, specifically his own company, Host Defense.
Ah, okay. How would talking about Portabellos affect that?
Well, there have been criticisms mentioned on Reddit about Host Defense products, accusations that they contain a lot of rice starch, not much actual mushroom mycelium.
Oh, right, and issues with labeling.
Exactly. The FDA apparently distinguishes between mycelium and the mushroom fruiting body and wants labels to reflect that. So, the theory goes, maybe Stamets avoided a controversial topic about any mushroom
Even a common edible one like Portobello.
to protect the overall image of fungi, the whole wellness industry, and therefore his own business.
So, not a direct threat to his life, but maybe to his livelihood or the industry's reputation.
Precisely. It's about protecting the perception, the market. That
Yeah.
seems like a reasonable motivation. Plausible.
Plausible. Okay, now other angle? Maybe it was all just a joke or hyperbole.
Definitely possible.
Yeah.
Stamets is known for being a bit, eccentric, dramatic sometimes.
So he says, it would put my life in danger just for effect.
Could be. Or maybe, like one Redditor suggested, it was a weird chemistry joke. Hydrazine, rocket fuel, explosive topic. Get it?
That may be a bit of a stretch for a joke, but
But not impossible for him, perhaps. If he was trying to be intriguing or just overly dramatic, it's less exciting, but you can't rule it out. Plausible.
okay, plausible. That leaves one more theory, and this one's quite dark.
Yeah, the potential connection to the murder of Stephen Hayden Pollock.
Who was he?
Another mushroom researcher and apparently a friend of Stamets. His murder is unsolved.
Unsolved. What happened?
It's disturbing. The details came up in the threads, referencing a Harper's article. 3 suspects, drug links, matching fingerprints at the scene.
But no prosecution.
Nope. The DA declined to prosecute for, quote, unknown reasons. And then the DEA apparently lost or destroyed the case files.
Lost the files. That sounds suspicious. So the idea here is maybe Stamets is generally wary of stirring up trouble or discussing sensitive things within the mycology world because of this unresolved tragedy involving a friend.
A kind of general fear or unease stemming from that whole situation. Exactly. Not necessarily a direct threat over Portobellos, but a background radiation of fear, maybe? Given the violent death and the weird circumstances, it makes sense he might be cautious.
That adds a chilling layer. Seems very plausible.
I agree. Plausible.
Wow. Okay, so we've run through quite a list. Food libel, garrotine risks, a potential mafia, rocket fuel, industry protection, a joke, and this tragic unsolved murder.
And what's striking is how many of them land in that plausible category.
Yeah, the only one we really ruled out was the direct hydrazine as explosives threat.
Right, so you've got legal worries, health chemical worries, maybe organized crime, maybe business protection, maybe it was hyperbole, or maybe it's linked to this really dark history with Pollock.
So for you listening, which one resonates most? What feels like the most likely reason for such an extreme statement about a mushroom?
Was it a calculated move to avoid legal or business trouble? A genuine fear based on the Pollock case? Or something else entirely?
Yeah, it's worth thinking about, and maybe digging deeper yourself into a garrotine research, or the mushroom business, or that Pollock case, if you're curious.
Definitely, because the ultimate question this leaves us with is pretty fascinating, isn't it?
What does it actually say about, well, everything? Food, health, science, business, maybe even crime, that asking about a Portabella mushroom could lead to that kind of response.
It's a lot to unpack from one unanswered question. Really makes you wonder what else is going on beneath the surface.